start our second half with a question. We'll start with Mr. Staschiak. And actually, both of you have said that you're in favor of transparency in the office. But let's face it, city finances are a little complicated. So how do we then provide context of the information that we're giving to people?
You know, I hate the word transparency. Let's put it the way it is. What I have tried to do since I've taken the position of city auditor is to make sure the finances are out there, the budgets, the information that's provided to council in an easy to read, understandable format that's easy to access. So I put everything, if there's a presentation on the finances made to council, and I did them quarterly, the actual presentation in PDF format with the graphs and the words we talked to council about is put online on the city auditor website. The city budget was the first auditor to say, let's take the budget, let's put it in the context of the whole budget. Let's put the revenues in, let's put the expenses in, and let's give some history background with some graphs and put that online. The idea and the best thing the city auditor can do is make sure all financial data is consistent, whether you give it to a citizen, an administrator, an elected official, or a union representative. And that information can be understood should they choose to do so. That is what we need to do, we continue to need to do, so we can engage this community and they have the understanding of the finances so they can make a strong case for whatever it is their interest is.
Ms. Spence, how would you put the budget numbers in a context that people would be able to understand?
Sure. Although I appreciate Auditor Staschiak's efforts to have that information available to the community at large, and it certainly is available on the website, it's not exactly user-friendly. It's not all that easy to access the information, which is why I'm really excited about the Open Checkbook Initiative that the Ohio Treasurer's Office is providing to our community. Not only is it going to be free of charge, but I've actually sat in with some of the representatives and looked at the software, and it is so user-friendly. You can click on a piece of the pie chart, and it will bring up information. It has a Google search engine type of engine style, where you can type in public pool and get all the information that's available on the pool or any of the other departments or services that the city provides. So although, you know, I do think that the city strives to provide great information, I'm really excited about this initiative, and I think it will take us a step beyond where we're at.
Okay. Next question, it kind of follows up on that. First for Ms. Spence, you both have been using web, social media, and everything in your campaigns. Are there elements from your campaign that you could then take into the office in terms of giving out that information to the residents? And Ms. Spence, we'll start with you.
Well, I have put together a Facebook page that has information. I try to update it as much as possible about things going on, not only in the race, but within the city itself. I'm very impressed with Councilman Russell's, I think he calls it the 419, local 419, where he has updated information from every council meeting. And looking at that, I think that's kind of what I'm trying to style my page after. And I think that it is something, because let's face it, social media is where sometimes we get a lot of our information. I mean, that's why, you know, the Courier and WFIN and, you know, all the other media outlets have their Facebook pages as well.
Mr. Staschiak, the use of the internet and social media to distribute information?
Oh, the internet's phenomenal. Who doesn't use it today? You know, I appreciate what we've done as a city with the new website and porting the data that we had in our office that we put out there, the financial statements, the CAFRs, the monthly or the reports that we give council, the quarterly reports, the historic data. But what is important that we understand, because when you're in the city auditor's position, you have to realize there's more than just a few citizens or more than just a few people that need that data. We have debt holders out there that hold millions of dollars of our debt. Standards and Poor's and Moody's rate us regularly. Those groups need access to information, and they're not going to get our finances off Facebook. They need to see the actual documents and the actual information that we're putting out there so that they know their interest is protected and that what we put out, it matters, that what we put out coincides with what they expect. That's been a huge part of what we have to do in getting that information. And Moody's and Standards and Poor's, now take a percentage of the information that you provide to your council, your management, your executive group, your controlling boards, and they rate you based on how you're doing that. That's a big part of it now. So what we're doing is to stay progressive and in line with those needs.
Okay. The next question will be for Mr. Staschiak initially. The Community Reinvestment Area Program, which provides property tax breaks for construction projects in certain areas, was expanded a few years ago. Can you say if you were for or against it at the time, and if you believe that has been good for the community center?
I could say, as I said earlier, the auditor's office is how much not well for. My role as city auditor was to make sure the individuals who were making the decision understood the benefits of the program, understood the history of the program, and understood that it impacted our ability to use other programs. It was a community trade. We have now traded a period of real estate tax receipts for, hopefully, income tax receipts. Time will tell whether the program benefited us the right way, but it certainly is working well. People are certainly excited about it, and I am certainly proud of the fact that I stood up in a responsible and respectful way and said, whoa, we need to slow down, not move too fast, and pass the piece of legislation that was being fast-tracked as emergency legislation the night I stood up, when nobody had an understanding of what it was, and that slowdown took several months later to end up with the product we have today, which is much improved over what was originally proposed. And I felt very comfortable doing that, and it needed to be done.
Okay. Ms. Spence, were you on council at the time this was expanded?
Yes, not only was I on council, but I was on a planning and zoning committee that worked over a year on the CRA expansion. And we talked about it on numerous occasions over an entire year. We went back and forth. You know, we worked with HRPC, the law director's office, and the administration to come up with the plan that we have in place today. I was absolutely for it. I did, though, several times. You know, we talked about boundaries. We talked about numbers of years. We talked about, what impact there might be. For example, we're talking about whether or not it was the right move for our community. McLean alone is going to bring in a minimum of 420 jobs at a minimum of $50,000 per year. At a 1% income tax, we know that we're going to be gaining at least $210,000 from income tax revenue from just that one company coming into our community. Not to mention all of the ways that they're giving back to our community in giving money to open up and provide the infrastructure necessary to build our second industry park. So absolutely 100% for the CRA expansion.
Thank you very much. Spence, this will be for you initially. Even though things appear to be financially sound right now, what can the auditors do, if anything, to prepare for the next downturn in our economy?
Absolutely. And that's a very good point. We need to look at what we need to do to prepare for the next downturn, because let's face it, it will come eventually. We kind of I estimated that our last downturn cost us roughly $25 million in lost revenue over a period of roughly 4 years. So not that I'm suggesting that we have $25 million sitting in an account somewhere, but we do need to plan aggressively so that we have financial stability. The $1 million rainy day fund is a great example of the financial stability work that we've done as a community to look into the future and for situations such as that.
What can we do? We shouldn't just be planning for another downturn. We should be planning for another upturn. You plan for good times and bad. The whole goal of planning, as I'm presenting it, and what my hope is to accomplish, is to get a 5-year forecast out there, that long-term debt plan, to look at what's going on in our community and do contingency planning often. In other words, if we know the operations are taken care of and our buildings, equipment, and streets are taken care of the capital side, then we know whether we have extra dollars or if we're short in the short term and then 3 to 5 years thereafter. if we're short, what's the contingency? We have to have contingency planning in place. Contingency planning and proper reserves buy us time so that we don't go through what we went through just a few years ago. Our employees don't deserve that, and our community doesn't deserve that. We are now sitting in a position where before we make large expenditures that haven't been considered with regard to potential impact in other areas, we need to finish those plans. We need to move forward and finish the plans for the water, the sewer, the capital, and the forecast, so we know how much extra we do or don't have.
All right. Our next question, first from Mr. Stasiak, is we've seen a lot of success with clean audits as of late. How do you,
With what?
I'm sorry, with clean audits?
Oh, okay.
That's a good thing. How do we keep that progress moving forward so that continues?
Well, we're going to continue to work hard to have those clean audits, but it's interesting. Audits, it's compliance, but there's other things that have to continue to happen. It goes with working with the administration. One of the things that the state contracted auditors do for the city of Findlay is they provide management comments. Management comments are guidance for business practices. They're not cast in concrete. You don't absolutely have to follow them unless they put you at risk for a citation. And we get those sometimes in past years. We've had them, some years we haven't had them. The idea is you have the audit come in, you work on areas where there's some perceived weaknesses, and you work with the administration or the bodies that are necessary to make sure that those perceived weaknesses are improved, and you continue to move forward. But it's a collaboration between the state contracted auditor, our office, and the operational group or the administration most of the time. And we also work with the courts. They've made recommendations for the courts as well in these audits. So it's wonderful what's going on.
Ms. Spence, how do we continue with getting clean audits?
I think that the way that we continue to have clean audits is to continue to test, question, and verify information, make sure that things are being reported and correctly, and make sure that things are coming in, the revenue's coming in, reported correctly, and that it's going out, reported correctly as well. We need to verify. I mean, obviously, you cannot verify every purchase order that comes into play, but you want to make sure that you look at everything and make sure that it's acceptable, it was used correctly, and move forward.
Okay. We'll move on to our final question of the night. This will be directed to Ms. Spence first. With the potential for state and federal mandates always changing on the horizon, what concerns you most from the auditor's standpoint in terms of how it would affect the city's finances, and how is the auditor's office best equipped to deal with those?
Well, there's always potential changes in mandates. Right now, we're certainly looking at how House Bill 5 is going to affect our community in the way that we collect local income taxes. There's some things that we're absolutely certain of. Ways that we send out notification of delinquencies have changed. We now have to look at certified mail or personal service. So there's a lot of change there. There's some things that we don't know yet because Findlay is already set up so that we have a 5-year cash forward in place. We're not sure exactly how the implementation process is going to affect our community. So that's just one example of a situation where we definitely have to be informed. We have to watch what's going on at the state and national level at all times, and especially when it has to do with income tax collection or things that will have an effect on our community.
Mr. Staschiak, anything that concerns you coming down the
Well,
pipeline?
first I want to put the community to ease. In my office, we balance the penny. We do check every PO, every check. Everything, every dollar that comes in and every dollar that comes out is balanced properly to the penny year after year, and that's one of the ways we keep us clean on it. Federal and state mandates. My biggest concern that we have to monitor is what's going to happen in the state with income tax collections. The state at one point expressed an interest in doing centralized collections. Learned very recently that within the next year, possibly 2, it's going to be on their plate again. What does centralized income tax collections do to the city of Findlay? It means the state's gonna take our money and collect it, and once they collect that money, they're gonna give us back our money. But there's going to be a delay in between, and they're gonna take a cut for administrative purposes. Now, that cut may or may not be more or less than what it costs us to operate the income tax department today. But I will tell you this, we need, and especially in the downturn we experienced just a couple of years ago, we were monitoring those receipts daily. Our cash was tight. We were gonna end the year with less than $1 million. That's not enough money to end the year with, and you need cash flow. We could be put in a position, if they don't do it properly, where the city would have to go out and get an operations loan to pay its bills. Oh, and by the way, it's against the law to get an operations loan to pay your bills if you're a city. So there's some challenges here that have to be considered. That's the biggest one I'm concerned about today. Okay.
Follow up, Steve? All right, with that said, we'll move on to our closing statements. And I believe that we will begin with Ms. Spence.
Thank you. As a council person, I've seen firsthand the need for accuracy, accountability, and collaboration from our auditor's office. Accountability and transparency are key in developing a meaningful relationship between elected leaders and community members. I'm extremely excited about the Open Checkbook Initiative recently offered by the Ohio Treasurer's Office. I recently attended a meeting we discussed earlier where representatives from the Mandel office showed us exactly how user-friendly the software really is. Findlay is fortunate to be selected as the first city to participate, and I cannot applaud Mayor Mahalik enough for going after that tool that will allow our constituents to easily access information to show how their tax dollars are not only collected, but also where they go. I will be committed to continuing the city's involvement in the Open Checkbook Initiative. I will provide a collaborative leadership style to the position of city auditor. I truly believe that our city thrives when all of our elected officials work together towards a common goal of prosperity. I have already proven that I listen. I have proven that I can work in a collaborative way with other leaders. I am engaged and I'm very knowledgeable about the city's policies and its finances. I have voted to pass several policies presented by the city's administration which have saved our community hundreds of thousands of dollars. I am qualified for the position of city auditor. I have my master's in business administration from here at the University of Findlay. I have experience in the private, the nonprofit, and the public sectors. I have experience with the city's budget and its operations. I'm experienced, well-educated, and ready to accept the challenging role of city auditor. You will not be disappointed if you vote for me, Dan Spence, for city auditor on May 5th. I will provide accurate accountability and collaboration needed for the continued advancement of the city of Findlay. Thank you.
Mr. Staschiak.
When I started as your city auditor, our taxes were higher, and the city's general fund was running out of money. Hopefully, I have shown tonight the city auditor must look at all the information and present all known facts in a manner that allow informed decisions to be made by anyone. I will continue to do this in a manner professional and that is respectful. I do want to thank my family, my friends, supporters, and everyone in the community for the support and faith you've shown me, and everyone here tonight for participating in this, and the university for hosting this forum tonight. Experience matters, and it does matter who your auditor is. You know, it's our quality of life that makes Findlay, Ohio so special. We have exceptional employees working for our city, and they deserve to know that we have proper financial planning in place. Our community deserves to know we have proper financial planning in place. The city is a service business. Take care of our employees, and they will continue to enrich the services that we provide to this community. Findlay is a community that continues to prosper. A long-term financial plan, that roadmap, is the road to success. Our city government must be able to say to our residents that our fiscal house is in order. With me as your auditor, we will continue to move forward so you know you have the police and fire protection you need, water and sewer services, repaired and plowed streets, a cemetery that is cared for, ball fields for our children and adults alike, and for goodness sakes, flood management. I'm humbled to have served as your city auditor these last 4 years. It matters who your auditor is.